Hello, Carnival personnel friends. It's your good old pal, Jacques. I've not done this before. I don't believe I had, where I've given an introductory / summary of an episode before we played the episode. But I'm making exception today, making this decision and this message unilaterally. I haven't run it by Sir Biff or Joe as of yet. But I just wanted to say a couple things about this episode. First, I think it's the first two-part episode we've ever had. A number of times episodes have run long, and we joked about making them a two-parter, but this is definitely going to be a two-parter. The conversation we had with our guest, our friend Hafen, for me, lasted over 4 hours, but the podcast about 2.5 hours, so I'll split it sort of in half. We are going to circle back and talk with Hafen in 6 months. Couple quick things. Yes, Hafen is the guest's real name. Hafen is a friend of mine in Biff's for a very long time. It was sometime late 96, early 97, I met Hafen. And from that point to about 2004, the fall of 2004, other than our dear departed friend Steve Daly and, our friend JT from Friday Night Hockey, are probably the only two people I spent as much time with as I spent with Hafen. Truly somebody I saw several times a week, playing hockey on different teams, just our social circles ran deep. He is somebody I consider beyond a brother. I'm, closer to him than I am my own brother. Absolutely could not think more of him. The most honest and earnest person I think I've ever met. A true sweetheart. And I joke a lot that I believe quite possibly he is a spy. Just to make sure I was clear. I quite possibly believe he's a spy. Do I really believe he's a spy? I don't know. I don't not believe he's a spy. And over this episode and the next one, I kind of methodically laid out the trail of breadcrumbs, piecing this together, and in about 6 months we decided, Joe, Biff, Hafen, and I decided we'll circle back in 6 months, and those guys will have kind of a list of questions to throw at Hafen if he doesn't drop off the grid again. He has this job and this career where it's completely plausible that he is incommunicato for vast periods of time for work-related reasons traveling around the globe. Anyways, I suggest listening to this episode at 1.25 speed. 1.5 might be too fast, but it would make the medicine go down easy if you sped up. Anyways, here is part one of our delightful chat with our brother, Hafen. Hello, and welcome to Carnival Personnel Sideshow. I'm Jacques.
Hey, I'm Biff. Hey, I'm here. Look at that. Wow.
And the person who found Biff hiding in the woods, me, Joe.
So
it wasn't exactly the woods, but okay.
Woods adjacent.
It's funny you mentioned hiding in the woods, which will come up later in this podcast. So this is a sideshow. We have a guest today. We have a guest that has only crossed paths with Joe a couple times in their lives, but a very close friend of Biff and I. We will get deep into the weeds of how we met, who this person is. I will preface by saying there's a couple people who have listened to this podcast who I've not met in person yet, who are super excited that this episode is finally happening. I'm going to say he's a really good friend who I've yet to meet. Dave, who hosts one of my favorite podcasts that's currently on hiatus. He says he's not doing anymore. I'm saying he's on hiatus. Complaints and Observation is one, person who we went back and forth messaging when I've talked about this person on the podcast and about what I think they really do for a living. and we will get into that. But first, we're going to talk about how we met, some fun stories, and then I think Biff will probably, and I'm just guessing, will probably take the defense attorney role. I'll fall into the prosecutor role. Joe will be the jury of his peers, and we'll break down into that. But for right now, Carnival Personnel listeners, All-Star Tommy, please welcome our good friend Hafen from it's not Stockholm you live in. What city in Sweden are you?
We're talking about the Stockholm syndrome. That's a different thing altogether.
Yeah. Hafen, where are you?
I am in Saltsjöbo, which I don't know if the Swedes would say that I'm pronouncing it correctly, but it's a suburb of Stockholm, so near Stockholm.
Can you say it one more time?
Saltsjöbo.
God bless you.
It sounds like, a place you go on the way to Coruscant or something.
It's also the name of my
first Star Wars.
That's a better
Star Wars
line. I'm not even going
to try. Right, okay, got one Star Wars reference in the books, and it wasn't from me.
It's also the name of my bookshelf from IKEA.
Right.
Yeah, see? The judges also accept that. So, Biff, help me with there's a couple areas where I'm fuzzy on how the three of us, you, Hafen, and I, came into each other's orbits. I don't know if I met you first and then met Hafen, or if I met Hafen and then I met you. Do you remember how the three of us became pals?
Well, I actually think it's kind of independent. So I think that, like, Hafen, joined, our hockey team, and so right, and then that was kind of its own path. But then Hafen independently was playing in a league with you. So
I can't imagine, because first of all, I have no idea how I wound up on the Caltech hockey team.
Well, I think that's what happened, was that we were short of people, and we asked, we basically hired you as coach. And because you were a coach, we just put you on as, he's a player coach. Yeah, that's it.
Did you bring me on, or did Hafen? Because I met you through F&H, I thought, or through Paul. No, I that's what I do. Most of the people I knew in LA, especially in the hockey circles, I met through Paul, and then, So
I think all three of us had independent meetings.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I can shed some light on this.
Yeah,
please do.
Yeah, there's one more thing that I have to tell you about, but let's go. Let's ask let's get Hafen going. Yep.
So Biff, you're correct in that this was all independent meetings. I started just playing at Caltech because, of course, at the time I worked at JPL, and JPL has an association with Caltech. So I wanted to play ice hockey, and that was a good way to do so. But that wasn't enough ice hockey for me because, well, let's face it, I sucked. So
past tense, you're talking.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay, all right.
This is a long time ago, Jacques. Come on. So then I went to F&H as another source of getting some ice time, and I recall actually, Jacques, the very moment we first met. So we were getting ready, and we happened to be in the same locker room, and it was just the three of us, you, me, and some other guy whose face I don't remember. And we were sitting there, last ones in the locker room, getting ready, lacing up, and I'm paying attention to just what I got to do, and all of a sudden I hear this other guy say, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And you say, like, "Sure," and he says, "Why do you have just one sideburn on your face?" and I recall your response, which was, "Dude, chicks dig it." And right there, it was love at first sight. I knew that we were going to be good friends.
Yeah. So the weird thing is that I don't know how you got on that team, Jacques, but you played on a team called I think it was Doom. And it was actually you and Nat played on a team called Doom, and I independently got on that team, and so like we actually met each other through like three very distinct circumstances.
Okay, because I don't. So the funny thing is, we're going to pause for just a second so everybody can catch up. I want to point out that Hafen and Biff, back me up on this, is a moron. Now, that said, if you were taking notes, at the time I met Hafen. He was working at JPL, which is part of Caltech. For the uninitiated, JPL is Jet Propulsion Laboratories, which is part of
what JPL is. It's a NASA organization that's administered by Caltech.
So I want to be really clear that Hafen's kind of in the category of my stepdad, my dad, a brilliant physicist, world-renowned moron. just and I couldn't say that more lovingly. Now, my boys do not know this. Someday they'll find out.
But Hafen is their father.
Oh my God! Oh, am I off the hook? Oh, thank fucking God! Because every time we go out, it's like, okay, keep an eye out. We'll go to the mall. Maybe we'll find your real dad. But all kidding aside, it's amazing how we cross paths. But I had a starter wife. I got married to a girl who went on to play professional hockey in the NWHL. I ended up helping run the league and GM of that team. And so you'll hear the name Nat a lot on this episode, more than all the other episodes put together. But that is where Joe and Hafen's paths crossed, because they were both in my starter wedding. I think that's the first time you guys met, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it might be the only time.
So I think so. Joe, like a black cat, you just kind of cross your path, and then it's all bad luck from there.
So you had moved back to Boston by the time of the wedding, right? Where were you living, Joe? Oh, yeah, you not moved out yet?
I hadn't quite moved out to Boston.
You haven't? Okay, so you guys must have hung out, because we would have parties, Hafen. Because, so Joe moved out for a year, right, after Nat and I got married, because we lived in that place. So the first time you guys met, you guys remember who else was in the wedding? Let's see. It was me. It was Nat.
I think that's it.
Joe.
I think I officiated the wedding.
It was Renetsky. Now Paul Lagois officiated.
That's
Can you guys think of anybody else who was in the wedding?
Was Tom Lally in the wedding?
No, Tom Lally was not in the wedding.
Okay.
John Taylor?
No, John was there. But he wasn't in the wedding.
I mean, I know the answer, but my lawyers have advised me not to answer.
You really don't remember who the other groomsman was, Hafe?
No. Of course I do.
Of
course I do. Newfie.
There you go.
No, Newfie was not. No, Newfie wasn't.
Are we giving away the answer? Or are we dancing around it?
Danny Masterson, dude.
Oh,
Danny Masterson. Hafen, Eric wasn't. It was you guys. My brother was my best man, and then I had you, Joe, and Danny, and that was it. And on her side, was Renetsky, and I can't remember who else. I really can't.
I was just trying to think of guys who used to wear the Chiefs jersey to Friday Night Hockey.
So for those who don't know, like I said, my starter wife, we met playing hockey through this guy, Paul Lagois, the godfather of hockey in Southern California, probably the Southwest U.S., truly. And instead of getting rings, we got our favorite players' numbers tattooed on our feet. So I got Bobby Orr's number 4, Gretzky's 99, she has Claude Lemieux's 22. So we got married 4/22/99 at the rink we met, and the women had the home jerseys and all the men wore the away uniforms of the Charlestown Chiefs. And that was Sports Center's play of the day. And Rob, I can't say the news announcer's name, but from Channel 4 in LA, they showed up too and covered it. Yes, thank you. I think it was Channel 4 who was there. Anyway, so that's where Hafen and Joe first met. Okay, so moving on. So Hafen and I became really, really great friends. At the time, Biff, we would see at hockey, we would see at events, we would hang out after hockey. But there was a window, and this is before, kids came into the picture for me, obviously, and, but we would play hockey at Selmar, California, which is about a half hour outside of LA. It's a shitty town for the most part, and where the rink was probably in the shittiest part of the shittiest town. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
No, it wasn't. It was actually, it gets, because I live not so far from that area. Yeah, it actually gets worse than that, but sure.
Yeah, but at least we had railroads through there. Come on.
And so,
how often did the trains go by?
So often you won't even know.
Every Jacques story.
Yeah.
So, well, which is funny because Paul Legua, one day, Paul Legua, a train goes by and he yells, "Shit, I missed my train." Yeah. Everybody laughs. I do that every day. So where we live in Lowell, like 5 miles away, you can hear the train, and an industrial train goes through the town at like 1 a.m, at 4 a.m. And if I'm up, I always say it. And it's funny because management, there's been times when management, I'll be sleeping down. I'll sleep on the couch. She'll be upstairs. She'll go to the bathroom, and she'll hear me say to myself, "Damn it, I missed my train." And she will call downstairs and like, "I heard you." It's like, so this rink was in the middle of nowhere. It was a one ice surface. We can do 5 sideshows on just the building of the rink, it being a front for, and again, Biff, correct me if I'm wrong, that rink was nothing more than built to launder Russian mob money. Yes or no?
Well, I mean, so it used to be a bowling alley. I think it's a converted bowling alley, and I think that's why it's not regulation. But I think that is an allegation that I don't want to actually make living, too close to that area. So I'm just gonna say that there were some, interesting activities going on with the alleged owners of that building.
And the rink was in the middle of the barrio, but right next to the rink was
oh my god,
an old farmhouse. No, like literally, it was. That's what Zach always referred to it as.
Barrio.
And there was, I don't know if it was a farm, but there was like a little shack type ish farmish area on one side of the rink that we would get off the ice at midnight. Most of the people would stay there till about 2 a.m. Hafen, what percentage of time would we still be there? You, Newfie, Nat, and maybe a couple other stragglers when the rooster started crowing at 5 a.m.
Oh, it had to be at least 90%.
And
it happened a lot.
And in one of my stand-up bits, I talk about one of the things I miss about the 90s is teleporting, because I teleported everywhere. And by teleporting, I mean drinking and driving. And I don't brag and I don't want to romanticize it, but is there any chance had we ever got pulled over, any of us would not have been over the legal limit? By like 20%, 50%.
What was it? Someone used to say, "I'll have one more beer for the ditch."
Yeah, that was Brian. That was Brian Day taking one for the ditch, which meant he put 3 in his bag. But yeah, so we would stay there, and after the starter wife and I parted ways, and management would come out to visit, she was out there for like probably the last 6 months or year of that rink, and she was just always amazed that the absolute shenanigans that would go on at a parking lot at 3 a.m. Like one day, we did a gift exchange, and the gift exchange used to be really fun. Somebody brought a used bowling ball, which we decided, let's go to the back, set up the beer bottles, and bowl. And we were
right.
So the ball would hit the wall and like roll back down because there was a little bit of a. And so after about 20 minutes of bowling and setting up the glass bottles and all this stuff, I remember Newfie holds the bowling ball and he's in the perfect bowling stance. It's like he's like ABC Wide World of Sports 1978, perfect bowling stance. And he casually looks to us and says, "Is anybody else's hands bleeding?"
Yeah.
Because we didn't realize, we were so drunk that, at one point of time, and by one point of time, after the first roll, that ball was covered with shards of glass.
Yeah. Okay, so once again, you're talking way too much when we have a guest. So I'm going to ask Hafen about, do you remember what we used to do with the beer bottles there?
I do not, actually. Please refresh
You do
my
not.
memory.
Do you remember the Paul Legua beer bottle disposal trick? His he kind of does the behind the back thing, and he throws the beer bottle onto the roof.
Oh yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. Do you remember when you tried it?
Oh no.
Well, first, Biff, could you remind everybody at the time?
Well, so
how old is Paul at the time?
Well, Paul was what? Was he like 78 at the time?
Maybe 71 like at my wedding was his 71st birthday.
Yeah. So, but okay. So, do you remember that whole thing? And when you tried to Hafen, do you remember that whole story?
I have a horrible sense of doom over this, and I don't recall the details.
Why don't you tell us about? Maybe start off by kind of reminding everybody how Paul did this behind the thing. Whatever his technique, and then tell us about what led you to decide that you're gonna try it and what happened.
I can only make some guesses here. I do recall what he used to do. So he used to take this bottle, and if memory serves, he'd hold on to the neck of the bottle, and then he would start with it in front of him. Let's say it's his right hand. He starts with it in front of him, and he'd swing it around the right side of his body. And then as it went around his back, he'd throw it up, and it would land up on the roof. Yeah. What did I do?
Well, you tried the same technique, except that when you hurled it, you threw it really strong, and you threw it the bottle head first, and it went straight into the glass on the side of the building, and there was there was a bullet hole looking thing. You didn't break the entire glass, but there was this kind of 1 inch hole, like somebody shot through that glass.
Oh no. Yeah, that's starting to sound familiar.
Yeah. How drunk were you then? Probably is almost my question.
Well, drunk enough that I guess I don't recall it, or as they say, time heals all wounds, and I'm hoping it the glass.
I mean, the building's demolished. It's fine.
But there was more, and at one point, our friend Zach, the Mexicant, was running the rink, and he would be like, "Okay, lock up the gate when you guys leave." And there'd be so many times at 6 a.m. when the figure skaters were pulling in. It's like, I guess we don't have to lock up. But then there was a time, and it was raining, and Hafen had some kind of sporty car, and I always had some kind of Hyundai Santa Fe. At one point, it was a station wagon, and we were racing for some stupid reason to the on-ramp to get on the highway to get home, and we got into a little fender bender.
You guys are idiots.
Okay, but that's a different scenario. That had nothing to do with Friday night hockey.
Oh, was that a league? Was that a league game?
It was because we were in Hollywood, North Hollywood or something when that happened. It was
okay. I just remember you had a $500 deductible, and I paid more than half.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that's right. Okay, we're gonna get to that in a second, but just to clarify things. I was driving, I slowed down, I got hit from behind. So I'm not going to say anything more about the details of that.
It's not the first time you got rear-ended. Let's be honest.
It's also not the first time that Jacques came in from behind.
Hello. But yes or no, I paid more than half the deductible.
Yeah. Yes, you did. You did. You paid the deductible plus 1 cent, and then lorded it over my head for years. That's how I made you pay more than half the deductible.
200. I wrote him a check for $250.01 just so I could be a dick. No, but that was a lot of fun, and we did. We played on the Caltech team, which arguably, at the beginning, the worst team in the history of organized hockey, maybe.
You know what? You say that, but we actually have one game, so you clearly cannot say that.
The guy who wore his blue jeans and his full under.
John Anderson, yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
It literally.
Yeah, he wasn't pushing the cutting edge of hockey technology.
No.
I remember first walking in the room with Nat, and truly, it looked like I walked into the waiting room of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He had all these JPL rocket scientists. Oh, I'll give hockey a try, and it turns out to be in a league with USC, UCLA that had 30 people rosters, all kids who played high school hockey back east. Yeah, that was an interesting time. But yeah, that was okay. So now we clarified that. So then, I want to go through Hafen's backstory a little bit. Here's one of my favorite stories about Hafen. Go ahead.
Hold on. I want to, before we get too far away from the Friday night hockey at Silmar and interesting things that happened there. There was one night, I don't know if you guys remember Paulie Costa.
Oh God.
Yeah. He was he played goalie for us, and goalies were kind of rare, so we were kind of stuck with any goalie that we could find that could even basically figure out how to put their pads on. But he was a bit of an alpha male in a kind of a toxic kind of way. So of course
there's the ones that aren't. I'm just asking the question. Okay.
But he was, of course, then extremely, extremely competitive, and it ended up, and I don't know quite how what led to this, but somehow it ended up that he and I think it was Paul Laguerre were going to race around the building.
It was Nat. The
Nat. Yeah.
Okay, so they raced around and I don't quite remember the outcome. But that led to then Paul Laguerre, again, to refresh your memory, the 70-something-year-old guy, to challenge me to running around the building, see who could get around the building the fastest. Now, the thing you need to know about this is that we didn't go in the same direction. We always went in opposite directions, so you didn't know how you were doing relative to the other person. So, of course, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to beat Paul. And so we go running around the buildings in opposite direction, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get there before him. And come on, this is a no-brainer, right? Well, I get around the other side, and then there's no Paul at all. There's no Paul. We're waiting. Eventually, he comes around the corner with his pants around the ankles, and moving with the little, I don't know, baby steps or whatever. But this is the kind of guy you just never knew what he was going to do.
Yep. Let's say. So wait. So Paulie used to hang around long enough, because I thought that Paulie didn't really hang around that much, but maybe I just don't remember that. There was an era where I didn't hang around much at all because I just became a dad. So
became a dad. So this guy, and it's like he and his brother were in the military. They were stationed in Korea. He was in good shape. He was like 6'1", maybe at least 6. Yeah. He had a tattoo of a sunflower that took up his entire back that he never would talk about. And if you want, when we talk about crazy people, there was a guy named Mike Britton. If you Google Mike Britton, he had done 3 years for manslaughter for killing a guy. He was out 6'4", 6'5", and truly like one of the earlier stages of the chart of evolution. I mean, he used Cro-Magnon maybe. Paulie. He went crazy like a few years after we all parted ways, where he was squatting in a house and was shooting at shadows that were out to get him, and he ended up calling.
I have the details on that, but do you want to hear about that?
Then there was Juan, the security guard, who stole the cash register one day and then tried to sell us his gun. So it was a very interesting place to play. So that's how we all came to know each other at hockey. I will tell one story about Hafen. I don't know if things have changed. So Hafen is colorblind, and he has no sense of smell.
Yeah, that's still true. I'm still colorblind.
Okay, as your apartment would indicate. And so he
somehow managed to get COVID before everybody else. He had no sense of smell.
Yeah. He has no sense of smell, and his equipment smelled so bad that we made him.
So wait, why don't you tell us, Hafen, why did your equipment smell so bad?
Well, okay, so it's not that I don't have a sense of smell, or at least I wasn't born that way, but eventually when things happen, you slowly get accustomed to them and you don't realize. And that's kind of the case with the hockey equipment. It was it spent a lot of time.
You were nose blind. What's that? You were nose blind to your hockey equipment.
I was nose blind to my hockey equipment, is what it really was.
Jacques, before you go further, hey Jacques, you wouldn't happen to know anything about being nose blind to smelly things in
Oh,
your
I am.
house?
I am. And I will happily say, like my boys have rectified that situation the last couple of years. No, and see, so Joe's texting me on the side saying, "Is that why he dates so many French women?" Joe, how dare you? That's not. Well, so anyway, so Hafen's bag smelled horrible. Okay, moving on.
So go. Let's go back to Hafen. Let's go ahead and tell us about the whole story.
So basically, it spent a bit of time in my car. I had this CRX, and so it was for those of you who don't know, the CRX basically it's a hatchback. So I had a lot of room, and I didn't really have a good place to put the equipment. I didn't think too much about it. I just, okay, I'll just leave it in my car, no big deal. Never thought twice about it until certain people that I played ice hockey with began to point out to me that this was not the most pleasant smelling set of ice hockey equipment in the locker room.
Well, where you lived, what percentage of days in the calendar year were above 90 degrees?
Well, let's see. This is inland LA, so probably about 95.
All of them. Yeah.
but lucky for us, you decided that you're gonna do all of us a favor and get a brand new set of equipment. You want to tell us about getting a brand new set of equipment?
I would like to, but I don't actually recall that. I mean, I know that I must have
your memories.
You were at my place. It was like, so Nat and I had this 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, and it was pretty big. It's where Joe ended up when he came out. He lived with us, and we had plenty of room. And we would have these parties that would go to the next day. And none of us did drugs other than alcohol. Alcohol is a drug, and none of us drank alcohol. It was all just beer. And we had a poker game or whatever, and your car got broken into.
Oh, yes.
And they stole your gear. And we felt so bad for them.
It's like,
that's right.
It's like life regrets. It's like, what were you thinking?
And we did. We drove around, like looking at dumpsters and just the side of the road. I can't imagine they got more than a half a mile.
I feel like you're the original person who does that prank of the person who leaves like this fake cap packages in front of their house for the porch pirates to steal, but there's dog shit inside. Like Hafen inadvertently pulls that. He's the original one to pull that trick.
They probably were the easiest thieves to find because you just have to follow the scent. Oh yeah, there they are.
Oh, it was awesome. So then, and I had some things that I definitely wanted to get. There was some things I definitely wanted to go. Okay, the next okay, and again, this speaks to Hafen being crazy smart and a moron. He tells us one day, I'm dropping out. I'm going off the grid. I'm going to spend the next year studying for my GRNs. Is that what they're called? The GRNs?
GREs.
For grad school. And so he's liquidating his stuff. He's moving out of this nice apartment and basically getting the Ted Kaczynski, like cabin in the woods type place. And our friend Eric and I go to move him. And it's hard to explain how hilly Los Angeles is. Like, Los Angeles is surrounded by mountains, and they build houses in the side of mountains. And where you enter,
where this is going. I know where this is going.
Where Hafen's house was.
Oh, wait. If you know where it's going, why don't you tell us the story?
Well, Jacques may do a better job.
But he'll do a longer job.
Yeah.
But yes, that's true. But where I was going was basically to this place where it was on the side of a hill. It was literally this 4-story house. And to get to the floor, so basically it was rented by different people. We each had our own floor. And my floor was not near the top. So, maybe it didn't make so much sense to try to move things in from the top, but from the bottom. So yes. And even though the house has 4 floors, that doesn't really set the stage. It's the fact that there are, to get from the street to the house there was many, many, many more flights of stairs.
So where was this place?
What is in Tahunga?
Okay.
So you had to go up 2 flights of steps, Biff, to go down 3 flights of steps to get his shit. And then, because
wait, well, let me ask you one more question. Wait, when you say Tahunga, is it like up like Old Tahunga Road? Like you go up Old Tahunga Road up? I mean, were you actually in Tahunga, or were you actually in the Angeles National Forest?
Yeah.
This was
serious question.
Yeah. This was this was, you know how Tahunga, it's this little valley, right? And you got the south side, you got the north side. I lived on the right where the valley became met with the hills. And so the street where I had to park was still on the flat area, and then the house was up the hill a ways.
Okay.
You get the picture.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So to make a bad situation even more, Hafen, I'm moving with him and Eric Newfie Setlak, and there was at one point a 20-minute discussion / argument. When you say lift on 3, is it 1, 2 lift? Or is it 1, 2, 3 lift? And the two of these morons, and so Nat and I end up just moving.
Okay, so for the two of us, Joe, is it 1, 2 lift or 1, 2, 3 lift?
I'm on 3 lift. I'm like 1, 2, 3 lift.
Oh, interesting.
That's me.
See,
but I'm from the East Coast.
Lift.
On the West Coast, you do 1, 2 lift.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, did you also factor in for wind resistance? Because
well, indoors, I hope there wasn't too much wind.
and oh God, I know, because Ellen management was in the picture at that point, and she was there, and she was just, holy crap, these 2 guys are crazy smart. Yeah, it was her. What movie did we find? You had a DVD copy. Oh my God. It was like, it was some teen like rom-com.
Oh, yes. What you are referring to is, of course, the the movie Bring It On.
Oh my God.
Before you can embarrass me, I'm going to say that this was not a movie that I went out and purchased. This was a movie you may not remember. I had this girlfriend, Michelle, at the time. This was a movie.
Really big boobs.
Yeah. But that's neither here nor there. But she got me this as a present because she wanted to watch it. So yeah, this was not a movie I went out and bought for myself.
And I remember picking it up, looking at Hafen, looking at Eric, looking at Hafen, looking at management, putting it down, and not saying a goddamn word.
And now you can watch it on Turner Classic Movies. That's how old it is.
Oh my God.
So Hafen then moves into the cabin in the woods so he can just study for the year. And he's like, I'm downsizing. I'm not going to play hockey that much. I want to study. And he wants to be a meteorologist, and not like on TV, not like, here's a 3-day weather forecast. He wants to be at the polar ice caps. He wants to be in the Sahara Desert. He wants to be where extreme weather is the norm, not the exception.
Well, so let's once again, why don't you tell us what you thought you were going to do, Hafen?
Well, I here's what I knew at the time. I knew that I had grown up loving weather, and it was just something that it was my passion all along. But life happens, and it wasn't what I ended up studying in school. So after I don't know how many years of just doing straight up development, I'd just been through a couple of startups where things maybe hadn't gone so well and the hours were super long. And so I started rethinking my career path. So I decided, you know what? I should actually go back and do this thing that I've loved my whole life, which was weather and atmospheric science. So I was thinking, it was time for a career change.
Okay, so then you're studying, right, for the GREs. So tell us what which GREs you took, where you applied, and then kind of how you got to somewhere that was not Los Angeles anymore.
Well, I mean, I as far as I know, there's only one set of GREs, so I took those.
Are there specific subjects though? Like
there are subject tests,
yeah,
but it wasn't required for entrance for the schools that I was interested in.
Got it. Okay.
And what was your score? I want to.
Let's see. I had on the verbals. I had a 660 out of 800, which was, it's actually percentile wise is extremely like that's very difficult to get. It was actually of all the people that applied to the school, the University of Washington that I ended up going to, I think it may have been the highest score of any applicant. And then on the math section, I had a 780 out of 800. And that, yeah, I mean, but believe it or not, there were two other applicants that year who one had a 790 and one had an 800.
I'm going to guess that neither of them were Jacques because he called them the GRNs.
I just, but and this is what I remember. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. There was essentially a bidding war for you between Washington, University of Washington, and University of Colorado in Denver.
That's right. And the thing was, I really wanted. I mean, I had lived in Colorado when I was younger. I loved Colorado, so because I loved the area, I was super tempted. And but the University of Washington, I mean, it's arguably, or at least at that time, I don't know these days, it had arguably the best reputation in the world for atmospheric science. And so maybe I think the reason maybe you know about this, Jacques, is because Ross Salowich, whom you're very close to, and introduced me to Ross. He's also an atmospheric scientist. So because of him, I ended up talking. He said, Hafen, look, what are you doing? You're caught between these two schools. The University of Washington, it's a no-brainer. I mean, how can you not go there? So
Ross has been on the program, just to back up. Ross has been on the program. My stepdad came into my life when I was 12. Ross came in around the same time. He's like 8 years older. He was an intern for my dad, who's a rocket scientist. When Ross was a sophomore at Cornell, Ross ends up moving to Massachusetts, going to Harvard PhD. He worked at JPL too. So, it's crazy how many smart people I know. The fact that I played on the Caltech hockey team and every year we played a one game winner take all thing against MIT. Anyways, but with Hafen,
and Jacques was keeping score.
I don't know. With Hafen, yeah, thank you. With
it's not rocket science.
No, with Hafen, when you talk to Ross, this is where the story starts to get. I'm gonna use a couple phrases from our good friend Mr. Taylor. This is where plausible deniability comes into Hafen's existence. Now, there was a bidding war between the two schools. He talked to Ross. He went to Washington, and this is where everything changed. But from about 87, 88 to about 2000 when did you go to Washington? 2005?
87?
97, 98 is when Hafen and I started hanging out all the time. And when did you go to Washington?
2004.
Yeah. So in that 6 year of time, I don't think I spent more time with any one person than Hafen. And because, Nat ended up playing in Vancouver. So she was gone 6 months of the year. I would go up every other weekend. She would come home if they didn't have a travel weekend. But I saw Hafen more than anybody. Again, Hafen was in the Starter Wedding. Let's just say, how can I say this casually? I had a different kind of lifestyle with the starter wife, and we would have friends, and we would meet with these certain friends at a hotel right near Hafen, and I would always bring them by to kind of get Hafen's thumbs up or double thumbs up on what the next 2 days of my life was going to be. And anyway, so we were crazy, crazy close. Then Hafen goes to Washington, and I'm going to also use the word allegedly. This is where, and this is why I want to have Hafen on. Well, first of all, Hafen, because I don't get this wrong, could you please give us the origin of your name? Because it sounds crazy if I say it. It's going to sound crazy if you say it, but if I say it, it's double crazy. Where does the name Hafen come from?
Okay, well, first of all, it's a German word, and they pronounce it Hafen, and it means harbor. Unless you're in Austria and you're speaking Austrian German, in which case it means jail. But no, the story originates. The way I got my name was that my dad, when he was very young, his father, my grandfather, went off to World War II. And, when he came back, he was a changed man.
What side was he fighting for?
Wow, big question, but wow.
Wow. I mean, there are a lot of things you can question.
He came back to the States and not Argentina, so come on.
So when my grandfather came back, things at home for my father were actually quite difficult. He was a changed man. And so things at home were hard. And so my father, at the tender age of 13, he left home, and he lived in he lived in Denver, Colorado at the time. So he went into the mountains of Colorado, and he ran into this gold miner that said, okay, I'll tell you what, you can stay with me, but you've got to work for me and you've got to go to school. So, my dad was quite young. And so he said, okay, I'll tell you what, yes, I'll do that. He had no way to sustain himself otherwise. So he stayed there for a number of years. And he told me that he learned discipline and a number of other great qualities. So when I was born, he named me after the gold miner.
Which I do. I love that.
So the gold miner there was a gold miner named Hafen? That is... I almost want to, I almost want the gold miner's origin story now.
Yeah, I don't know. Did we lose you, Hafen? We have technical difficulties. Let me mark this so I can find it in the editing. Joe, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
I can hear you also, yeah. Can you hear me?
It's just you, Hafe.
Can you hear...
I can hear you, Joe. I can hear Biff, and you guys can hear me, but we can't hear you, Hafen.
Yeah. Is your mic muted? No, it's not. Maybe he might have to. Oh! I can hear an echo.
Echo. Yeah, there's an echo now. Hafen, log off and log back in.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, hear you.
All right.
Bad news. We can hear you.
Worst news. You can hear Jacques.
We can hear you, Jacques.
Yeah.
Okay. So your dad, the woods of Colorado. I've always loved that story. All
right.
It's insane.
Okay. So let's go to Washington.
Okay. So this is where, like I say, this is where things get a little dicey. Hafen has different groups of friends. Now, I should also say, when Hafen said he wanted to do his lifelong passion of getting into meteorology, Hafen, can you tell us where you went to undergrad and for what?
Yeah, I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in upstate New York, and I started actually in applied physics, but then I switched a semester in because a friend of mine was doing mechanical engineering, and the work he was doing, the classes he was taking, seemed more interesting. So I switched over, and so I ended up with a degree in mechanical engineering.
And where did you do your mechanical engineering after college?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got into programming. How did you learn to program?
Actually, I started off at a very young age. I was self-taught. I started at the age of 11, and I started, of course, as a lot of people do, with basic, and then eventually some Turbo Pascal, and then C, and but so it was kind of on my own.
So one day, and Joe, you will know this game. I don't. We don't hear from Hafen for a weekend. Like, he's not at hockey. He's off the grid. We see him mid next week. And it's like, Hafen, where have you been? Hafen, for whatever reason, wanted to play a computer game from his childhood. He could not remember. He could not find. So he spent the weekend building the fucking
Okay, so
game.
what did you write?
It was a game. It had been called Galactic Empire, and it was a simple game, to be honest. I mean, it's basically everybody's got some spaceships. They have a home world, and you do galactic battle. But the thing was, I always liked strategic games, and this was one. It was a double-blind game, which was kind of unusual. So it's one where you didn't know what the other players were going to do until their ships arrived on a planet of yours. Anyway, so I couldn't find this or really anything like it anywhere. So, and this is a while ago. I mean, this was So anyway, so I just decided, well, why can't I just make it myself?
Right.
So I did.
What did you write it in C or?
Yes, I did write it in C. That's right. Yeah.
Is it still available? Like, can I, is it uploaded to a website? Like, is it archived somewhere, or is it just on one of your floppy disks?
It's not even available to me anymore.
Yeah.
But how long would it take you to build it? Like, if we pause the podcast for like an hour, would you be able to put it up in the cloud for Joe?
Extreme programming challenge.
So
I could, then. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Of all the people listening to podcasts, the only person.
Let me ask you something. Yeah. We were just about to head to Washington State, and suddenly we took turns that got him to making the program. So when are we going to head to Washington State?
Well, right now. But like I was going to say, Biff, if everybody listening to the program,
I'm going to start timing right now. It is 10:01 my time.
Only one for everybody listening to the podcast. Only one person knows exactly what I'm doing right now. Other than me. Okay, so now we're at Washington State. Again, allegedly. And I wanted to go back because Hafen has friends before he went to college. Hafen has friends from college. And very rarely in the 30 years I've known Hafen have any of these groups intertwined. They're all compartmentalized. Like, yeah, I've met his mom. Yeah, I met his friend BJ. But it's one of those things. I was never on a text thread with BJ. I never really hung out with any of these people, nor have they hung out with other people in his group. We don't know if they're actors. We don't know if he's just like, hired somebody to show up, say, okay, here's the backstory. Here's the cliff notes. We met here. Just say this type thing. So he allegedly goes to Washington State, and I'm pretty much the only person he's in contact with down here because cell phones aren't overly prevalent. It cost a lot of money to use cell phones because this is, again, 2004. Things changed a few years later. And Hafen, when he would come home for Christmas or Thanksgiving, he would stay with management and I, for sometimes weeks. But nobody went up to Washington that I knew and visited him. Nobody could corroborate. It's like, oh, now once he's in Washington, he starts doing these. Oh, I won't be able to be in contact for the next 2 weeks. We're going from point A to point B. We're going out in the wilderness. We're doing some weather mapping. There's no cell service. You don't call me. I'll call you. And then he had these this is where he started to have these plausible deniabilities why he's out of contact for weeks at a time. So it's correct me if I'm wrong. So allegedly you went to Washington. Tell us how Washington went for you.
Well, at some point, you go to grad school, you got to do these things called, you have these theses you have to do. You have to have a project. And so my project was to go into the mountains and examine snowflakes under a microscope because somebody's got to do it, right?
Actually, no, but go on.
So anyway, so I would go into the mountains, and I had they had rented this what I used to call it a hovel. We had a nice house that we could have rented, but my 2-year-old colleague in the office, he was not a grad student, of course, but he was going to work with me on this project. He didn't want to be in the same house with me because his wife was going to spend some time with him. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to be naked a whole lot.
Oh, I thought you brought your hockey equipment. So
Cold, hold on. Score 1 for Joe. Okay, go on.
So anyway, we ended up in these little hovels, is what I used to call them, in quite isolated, quite small, up in the mountains, and so we would spend a lot of time. And when a snowstorm would come in, we had to be ready to go. We had to, be ready to go into this little trailer where we had most of it was exposed to the outside. So it's like anywhere from 10 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. For anybody that's listening in Celsius, it's like minus, say, minus 12 to minus 8. No, sorry, minus 6, 5, 4, 3, something like that.
Wrong.
So anyway, but we're exposed to this, and so I'd be taking measurements for hours and hours and hours on end. Meanwhile, my 62-year-old colleague is sitting in the warm part of the trailer, enjoying himself with a nice warm heater. But yeah, so because we're out in the middle of nowhere, we had to be somewhere high up where it was definitely going to be snow, no rain. So it was quite isolated. So I'd spend, quite a bit of time up there.
And did you find matching snowflakes? Because it takes a long time.
You hear those words coming out of your mouth, right? Right. You're a snowflake scientist. Okay. Along the way, so here's something that, because it's an audio only podcast. Hafen used to be a pretty good looking guy, in good shape, a really decent athlete. Brightest athlete. Not so much. Good athlete, yes. And so, I mean, he could get to where he wanted to go on the ice very quickly. Wasn't always the right spot, but he could get there very quickly.
He had the kind of the athletic skills of a squirrel, but then the IQ of a squirrel also.
I mean, Hafen, can you catch a pass on your backhand? Okay, moving on. But and Selmar, I don't know how it started, but I used to wrestle with people after, like people would want to challenge me, and I would throw somebody down 3 times. I give you, okay, you got 3 chances to wrestle.
So wait, we're done with the Washington already?
No, we're going to get back, but I'm building a case. So Hafen one time was so pleased because I couldn't get him pinned the 3rd time, because he's an ox. I mean, he didn't take into consideration this was after a 2-hour game, and he was the 9th person I wrestled. But so Hafen is very strong, very athletic, good-looking guy, and as you can already tell, sweet and charming, and just like he's a Ringo Starr of Friday Night Hockey. Just a lovable little scamp. So in Washington, but he had a trail of girlfriends that, credit where credit's due, he was always honest. It's like, I'm going here and I'm going over there at this time frame. You're not coming with me. Don't get attached. They all got attached. I don't know how many T-shirts he lost. I still have that one T-shirt for you, Abe. And girls would just like be shells and husks of the woman they were before falling in love with him. So he definitely had that. He wasn't mean about it, but hey, don't fall in love with me. I'm leaving. They would fall in love and they'd be crushed. So in Washington, this is the first time he calls me and says, this girl is great. She's great. And I see a future. And she was graduating 6 months before him. And she was going back to Sweden. And the plan was in 6 months, he would go then to Sweden. She, I think, already got accepted to Harvard, but had to wait a year to come back to go to Harvard. So that was the plan. He graduates 6 months after her, go to Sweden, stay there for a year. Then she was going to go to Harvard. And then he was like, well, maybe I'll go to Harvard too, because that's how it works in Hafen's world.
Wasn't there something else going on with the funding related to your research or something like that?
Yeah. So the thing is I was trying to finish up my my degree, and that meant writing my thesis. And writing, I'm an all right writer, but I'm not a fast writer. And couple that with a thesis advisor who's a perfectionist, and that is a marriage made in hell. So basically, something that should have taken 3 months kept going and going and going and going, and actually to the point where I decided I'm not cutting my hair till this is done. So, of course, over the course of a year, my hair got quite long, and I started calling it thesis hair. But nonetheless, I was trying to finish, and I ran into a problem where there wasn't enough funding to keep me on as a research assistant to keep doing what I was doing. So I kept kind of getting these threats, like, if you don't finish, like, you're done. You're not going to be able to finish. It kept getting extended until it reached a point where it wasn't going to be extended anymore. So I'll stop there. Please continue your story.
What's your story, isn't it?
So you met her, she moves, and it was that the plan? That was the original plan, that you were going to go to Sweden, stay there, and then go to Boston because she was going to go to Harvard.
I don't remember the Harvard part, but I definitely remember going to the Sweden part. The idea was this: is I was going to go to Sweden, and the rules are such here that if you have what they call in Sweden a sambo, it's a word we don't have in the U.S. Basically, it means like a partner that you live with. It's a lot like marriage in Sweden. They're equivalent, even though you can be married in Sweden, but it's
a common law person.
Yeah, exactly.
Or hold on. Otherwise, no, I got the translation thing. No, dude, it's right here. It's called Sugar Mama. It's like it's right there. Yes or no? Yes or no? Okay. Moving on. So, but no, because I remember because we were talking. Let's
just tell us. You finished at Washington. We don't care about what you ended up with. You're done at Washington. Where do you go?
Allegedly.
How do you, what's the what happens in your thought process? Where do you go?
Well, okay. So I'd spent 5 years in grad school, and after all of this hard work and a year-long attempt to finish a thesis, which I finally did, I decided to reward myself with a trip to Europe. And it was going to be a 4-week trip. And I had a good buddy of mine, Martin Zelinka, that was, shout out to Mark, that was going to meet me in Europe. So I went there, we met up, and we traveled around for a couple of weeks. He had to go back. I was going to spend a couple of more weeks there. And this had nothing whatsoever to do with the lovely gal that you were referring to, Jacques. This was actually after that, as it turns out.
Okay.
So I ended up there, and on this trip, I had become enamored with Europe because I had already been there once before, fell in love with it, but this time it was the experience was even multiplied, and so I had seen so many wonderful, lovely things about Europe, and I didn't want to come back. And I suspect you're going somewhere with this.
No, you need to go somewhere with it because we hear Jacques all the time.
Yeah, no, here's a shovel. Here's a shovel. Keep digging.
So when I was about to return home, it was my final night in Paris, and I had been to on this trip. I had actually been to Paris a few times. It was actually the third time I was in Paris on this trip. Final night there, and I had, over this time in my trips to Paris, I had met this kind of a group of people, and they started getting just a little bit familiar with me. And so the final night I was there, I was saying how sorry I was that I had to go back because I just didn't want to leave. I had fallen in love with Europe. And so they were saying, "Oh, you shouldn't go back. You shouldn't go back." And I was like, "Yeah, but of course. What can I do? I'm an American. I'm stuck. I mean, I have to go back." But as the evening wore on, it started to play in my head a little bit, and it was my last night. And I had an early morning flight. I decided, you know what? It's my last night. I'm just going to spend the whole night. I'm not going to bed. I'm going to spend the night out on the town. And so I was out the entire night. And by the time morning rolled around, I kind of put myself in a position where I couldn't make my flight back home.
Was that position anywhere on page 6 or 7 of the Super Kata?
Kama Sutra? Is that what you're
Kama
trying to
Sutra.
say?
Thank you.
I thought you said chupacabra for a second. I'm like,
I might have, Joe. I might have. It's me. But here's how I remember it, because, like I said, I was the one in constant contact as much as anybody from this country was. So yeah, he was going to go over to Sweden. For whatever reason, Sweden's off the table. So he's like, I got this ticket. I'm going anyways. The night before he left, he ends up making a new friend who might have been able to, hey, I might know of a job that, is up your alley. And again, not mechanical engineering. Not what kind of physics was it? Not applied physics. Not applied physics.
The hotel industry.
And here's the great thing about that job. It also came with a place to stay. Now, that place to stay wasn't at the place where he was working.
So where'd you end up? So continue the story. You missed a flight.
Yeah, I ended up in the 5th arrondissement of Paris.
Bless you.
And so, like I said, I couldn't make my flight. So I was, where I was at the time when I didn't make my flight, this lovely gal said, well, you know what? That's okay. You can stay here a little bit, and the whole time I was thinking, okay, I guess I'm going to have to maybe catch a different flight home at some point. I mean, I had concert tickets waiting back for me in Seattle. I had a trip coming up soon to go back to LA. I think I was probably going to go and see you, Jacques, if I remember correctly.
You mean stay with? Not see. I mean, we stayed there. I was your Biff, because I always stay with Biff.
Yeah, and so an extra day or two led to an extra week, led to a little bit more. And the thing is when I was there, it was like I was in a fantasy world for adults. That sounds a lot worse than I made it sound.
You made it sound awesome. You made it sound awesome.
Not be, but okay.
Well, for Jacques, that fantasy world would have been the Star Wars experience at Disney World.
I thought it was going to be a quiet room with a PlayStation to himself. But
now that's Joe. Yeah, everybody has their happy place.
But go on, Hafen.
But for me, it was Paris was just amazing, and so it every day I woke up, I was like I felt like I wanted to pinch myself just to be sure it was real. It was like a Disneyland for adults. I was in love with the culture. I was in love with the experiences I was having. I was meeting all kinds of people, and on a regular basis, it was an incredible experience.
And that girl was in love with you.
So what happened where you were no longer in Paris because you're not there now?
Well, then I got a call from the person that you mentioned about in Sweden a few moments ago, and that person had an idea for business. They wanted to start a new company to make weather forecasts in Africa, and it happened, of course, that I just happened to have the right multiple sets of expertise for what needed to be done. And
so what you're saying is you have a certain set of skills.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was totally going to go there.
He has a particular set of skills.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you.
And so, but the kind of the combination of the areas of expertise that I have are a bit unusual, and turns out exactly what was needed to do what the company really needed in order to fly. So,
and was that to topple small governments?
I could tell you, Jacques.
Put down regimes.
I could tell you, but then Biff would have to kill you, and I'm pretty sure he could do it because I think Biff is a ninja. I'm pretty sure.
Hey,
playing the race card.
We don't tolerate that kind of talk around here.
I'm gonna say, Hafen, I'm not a ninja, but it is a different organization. Let's just.
It starts with Yaku and ends with.
So you're in Sweden and
no, France.
No, okay, but did you go to Sweden and then down to Ghana, or did you go to Sweden first?
Well, I was told that I in order to do this, I was going to have to leave France. I was going to have to either go to Sweden or to Ghana. And so I was given the choice. And so I said, okay, yeah, I choose Sweden because I love Europe. And
you're racist and you like white people. No, we get it. We get it. It's all good.
So I shortly before, right before, in fact, I was going to go to Sweden. I was told suddenly, sorry, that's not going to happen. You have to come to Ghana. So, okay, fine. I'm a kind of guy. I roll with the punches. I'm fairly easygoing, and maybe a little bit of an adventurous. So, all right, Africa sounds interesting. So, so I ended up hopping a flight to what was supposed to be Africa, and I didn't make it. I'm not sure I should be telling this story.
Stand by. We're experiencing some technical difficulties, but we'll return to the regular programming soon.
So I was going to go down to Ghana, and on the way there, I had a layover in London at London Heathrow. And so when I got there, it's just supposed to be an easy, like a connection, no big deal. But when I got there, I got pulled aside, and they're like, "Oh, please step aside, sir." I'm like, okay. And they start asking me questions, and I'm really quite confused here. Where is this going? And the questions, they start out innocent enough, but the longer they're asking, the questions start not sounding so innocent anymore. And so I soon realized that what they're after is they start telling me, well, wait a second. So why are you going to Ghana? What's going on here? And suddenly I'm under suspicion for something. Well, it turns out that they're telling me I can't go to Ghana. I'm like, well, what do you mean I can't go to Ghana? And they say, well, you don't have a visa. And I said, yeah, but you don't need a visa to go to Ghana. You can get a visa on arrival, which you can. And they say, no, you can't do that. It says here that you can do that if you have 48-hour prior approval from like the Ghana, some agency there. And that's actually false. That's not how it is. And so they decide they're not gonna let me go. But at the same time, they're super suspicious of me. Now, the UK, it's a highly surveilled society. They're into that whole, they share intelligence with the US, and, the US security agencies and whatnot, they tend to gather a little bit of intelligence.
Go on.
Yeah. So now I'm under suspicion. And so the next thing I know, my bags have been removed from the flight that I'm supposed to be on. I've been put in an detention room, and I'm just sitting there for hours and hours, and they leave me there for quite some time. Hours pass, and they come back, and they start interviewing me again. And at this point, I'm just exhausted because now I've been awake for I don't know how many hours. So eventually they tell me, well, here's the thing. We're not going to let you, you're not going to Ghana. We're going to send you back to the US. So choice is yours.
The government.
Oh, look at that. Oh,
Hafen. You cut out, Hafen.
You have to wait. No, you're gonna have to put more quarters in.
Hafen, log off and log back in.
You're gonna try again. He kind of does like a reset. He doesn't log off necessarily.
I'm back.
Okay, great.
So
it was such suspicious. Just as you were getting to what was going to happen, the government
go back to U.S. or is where
So they tell me that I can go to either New York or Boston. And the thing is, what am I going to do in New York or Boston? They told me, first of all, we're not going to let you into the UK because you don't have enough money to come here. You obviously can't stay here. So we're going to send you to New York or Boston. Well, let me think about this for a second. If I can't afford to stay in the UK, what am I going to be able to do in New York or Boston? I'm going to starve to death. I mean, if I don't have enough money to stay in London, what's the difference? So I told them, I said, okay, fine. You're going to send me back to the US, but I do still have an apartment in Seattle that I was still renting out because as you know, when I left the US, I didn't exactly plan for that. So I had a choice. So I told them, I said, look, you've got to send me either to Seattle or to LA because I knew, Jacques there. I may have still had family at that. No, I didn't. But I knew that I'd be okay. So anyway, they said, hey, listen, you're not telling us what you're going to do. We're telling you what you're going to do. I said, great. Well, then you're going to send me there and I'm going to starve to death because I have no money, as you say, and I have nowhere to stay. So in the end, they decided that, okay, fine, we're going to put you on a plane to Seattle. So I got on this plane. I was about to get on this plane. Of course, it was a whole security thing. They led me there. They wouldn't let me out of their sight. They wouldn't let me have my passport. We went through the lines ahead of everybody else. Everybody's looking at us like, what's going on here? And they literally escort me up the stairs right to the plane. And then they hand the stewardess, what do you call it?
Flight attendant. Yep.
Back then it was a stewardess. So they hand my passport to them and say, okay, we'll give it to him when he gets back to the States. So I'm on the flight, get back to the States, and they're still not handing me my passport. I'm like, what? How am I supposed to fill out the customs form and all this stuff? So anyway, I asked the flight attendant, and she says, oh, don't worry about it. Just fill we'll fill that in later. Okay, fine. So the plane lands and we arrive at the gate, and I'm the last person because I asked for my passport. And they say, okay, wait here. And so after everybody else has gotten off the plane, they have my passport in this like manila envelope. And one of the flight attendants hands me the envelope. I'm thinking, okay, good. All right. And then one of the other ones grabs it out of my hand and says, no, you can't do that. So then they proceed to escort me through the Seattle airport to US, immigration. And I don't remember quite how the conversation goes until the point where I remember the US immigration official saying, I don't care. He's an American citizen. And that was the moment I wanted to kiss the ground. So they ended up giving me my passport at that moment, and I was just so thankful. But I was paranoid at this point because of everything I had been through along the way on this trip. I kept thinking things were going to get better, and then they didn't, and they got worse, in fact. So eventually, got my passport back. I leave the airport. I'm on my way back on some, shuttle, bus, whatever. And I'm still paranoid at this point. I'm still not feeling comfortable yet. It wasn't until I got home that I finally, take my passport out, kiss the ground, and finally feel like, okay, things are going to be all right. But,
so you didn't even check to see if that was actually your passport that they handed to you before you left. It was just like, I assume it's mine and not like
Juan Sanchez.
No,
right.
So at any point in this ordeal, did you have to take off your pants?
Oh,
Have to?
Offered. I mean, hey, what do I got to do to get back in this country? Am I right?
Listen.
Wait, by myself or with other people present?
There were cameras.
That's where Hafen goes, I've got a particular set of skills.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Well, my friends, I think this is as good as any other place to cut this episode in half. There really was no good place to cut the episode. I know each and every moment and story from Hafen was mesmerizing. Next week, I kind of formulate more of my argument as to Hafen being a spy, but I think your whistle is quite wet at this point with the little bits of information we were able to pull out of him, and having his computer crash at a very auspicious time during our little chat just kind of, feeds into my argument even more. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and please do not forget,